Hey, it's Deborah Boschert. I am here again talking about my new book, Art Quilt Collage. And Teri Lucas is here with me today. I'm so excited. Teri is from Generation Q magazine, and the Generation Q website always shares tons of interesting new fabric and products and books with their readers. So I'm really excited that she is here to talk about my book today. Teri, how are you?
I'm good, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I'm going to put my book up on our screen so we can just scroll through it a little bit together.
Great.
There it is. So tell me what you thought of the book, or what questions you have for me, or what caught your eye.
Um, First of all, you laid things out really simply, and I really appreciate that. When you explain technique very clearly, it makes it much more approachable from a content standpoint, and for like somebody like me who's not particularly an artist in the way that you do. It makes it a lot more approachable, seeing that there are a lot of things that I can use. Like there's on the supplies page, and you talk actually in depth about different supplies that you can use, and how to use them, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Yes, I included, I tried to put a lot of information there, but like you said, to kind of break it up so readers can pick and choose what works for them and find a way to work with this idea of art quilt collage.
And how did you actually get started doing collaging?
Well, I started making pieced quilts from patterns almost 20 years ago, and I was reading Quilter's Newsletter magazine and really noticing that I was drawn to more arty stuff. And then Quilting Arts magazine began publication, and I was seeing work that different artists were doing, and I just expanded and started trying new things. I took a class from Melody Johnson, and so I learned about fusible webbing and fused applique, and for me that was really when the door opened to creating art in a whole different way with fabric.
What fusible do you use?
I really love Misty Fuse, and I also sometimes use Wonder Under, and those are really those are the two that I love and use most regularly.
How do you differentiate? Like, where do you go with choosing which one that you're going to use in your project?
Misty Fuse is so easy to use, and you just pull it right off the roll. And I have a Goddess sheet, which is a Teflon sheet, nonstick sheet, so it makes it really easy to apply the fusible webbing to the fabric. And I use Wonder Under if I'm doing smaller bits. The Wonder Under has a paper backing, so
Okay.
if I want to draw a shape on the paper backing, that's an option with Wonder Under.
Okay, where it's not with Misty Fuse.
Exactly.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, fusible webbing opens all. It just makes everything possible to layer and cut any shape you want, and you don't have to worry about seam allowance or a seam at all.
That's amazing. I
Yes,
like that idea.
right.
How do you practice?
How do I practice?
Yeah, like,
Well,
do you
I
have like a pile of like knee deep of pieces that have been discarded because they've taught you everything?
well, for sure. I'm always editing and as I go. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to constantly think about what's working and what's not working. And in fact, in the design and composition chapter of the book, I have what I call the design checklist. And even though I've been making art quilts for years, I still use this checklist to really ask myself, how can I look at the piece of work that I'm doing and bring some objectivity and figure out what might be working, what might not be working, but not only that, what I can do to fix it. So it's a constant process of kind of figuring things out as I go. Sometimes there is no solution to a problem, and then it just gets, put in the closet.
Get set aside into the naughty kids corner. I kind of get
Yes,
that. And
Yes.
do you have a group of people that you work with to give you feedback?
I do. I've moved around a lot, and I've been lucky enough to be members of groups of art quilters in different places. And then we have the internet that allows us to stay in touch with each other no matter where we live. So I do have a variety of groups, both in Dallas where I live. I'm a member of the Dallas Area Fiber Artists, and also the Studio Art Quilt Associates, which has regional meetings in Dallas, but also have lots of online connections of people that I've grown close to over the years who really know me and know my work. And so those are the best kind of people to give feedback.
Mm-hmm. And what are you looking for when you go for feedback?
Well, that's an interesting question. Sometimes it depends on whether the work is in progress or finished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes if a work is finished and I know that it's well conceived, I like to hear what other people see in it as the strengths that I might not see. I also really like to hear what people think maybe doesn't work. That doesn't mean it's bad or wrong or a mistake, but it's interesting to talk to people about the things they like and the things they don't like, because it's inevitably different from how I might analyze it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you incorporate, I mean, clearly in looking through the book, you have some great quilting, and some things that I was a little surprised at. Like I saw on one of the chairs, I think I saw these kind of really cool feathers, like a circle of feathers. And I thought, okay, there was it was kind of cool to see this, what would be considered very traditional wreath of feathers.
Yes.
On this very arty, I mean, clearly arty piece. So
Sure.
how do you, like, I'm guessing that your experience very early on kind of informed what you do now.
For sure.
But so how do you decide on quilting? Like,
Well, I think of the quilting, the stitching, as the last layer of design. And I love the idea of layers. My quilts really are layers of fabric, paint, and stitching. And I do stitching by hand and by machine. You're talking mostly about the quilting, the free motion stitching.
yeah.
And sometimes it's the funnest part. Sometimes it's super hard to decide how to incorporate design that's interesting on its own, but also complements what's already there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I'm doing motifs, botanical motifs, or geometric motifs that are kind of paralleling the other imagery that's in the quilt. A lot of times I'm using the quilting to tie together various sections. So if I have a block of cloth that's red on a cream background, I might do some quilting that ties that together, ties those two colors together so that the contrast is not so severe. Those are some of the things I think about. Sometimes I just wing it.
I was kind of hoping that you would say that. I'm a total wing it as a quilter. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
look, fabric.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you go about choosing your tools? Like, if you're choosing paint, how are you going about choosing paint? Like, do you just go into the art store and say, hey, that's a cool color, let me see what I can do with that?
Yeah. Paint mostly is about color. And I use acrylic paint, and a lot of times art quilters say, oh, you don't use textile paint. Doesn't the acrylic paint change the hand of the fabric? And I say, yes, absolutely. That's part of what I love about it. Gives it texture. It gives it another layer. You know, the light reflects differently off the paint than off the cloth. It doesn't blend in entirely to the cloth. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about. And also, you know, just kind of figuring out what I like and not necessarily, doing what everybody else does. And those are some of the things that I've tried to, introduce in the book as options for people to consider.
Okay, in the book, you have loads of quilts. What are your two favorites?
Oh.
I know, it's like asking you to pick your favorite kid.
Yes. Well, I really love this quilt that's on the cover in the corner with the green bowl. I'm making a lot of quilts with bowls lately. I love that shape and that symbol. So I will say that green bowl quilt. Oh, and I love this one. I'm sorry. I love this one also with the red yucca. And that is in the book. It's inspired by a photograph. And in the book, there's the actual photograph, and then that red yucca quilt, small art quilt that I made from it, where I talk about how to abstract a photograph, or how to take inspiration from a photograph and not copy it directly, but use bits and pieces of the photograph, whether it's the shapes or the color palette or the mood, to create the art quilt inspired by it. Okay, so I say those two, the red yucca and the green bowl.
Okay, but there's another one, I can tell.
No, there's not. Well, I mean, I love them all. Some more than others, but I really do. I'm thrilled with all the quilts that are pictured in the book.
And okay, so being the community editor for Generation Q magazine,
yes,
we always ask unusual questions. So, what are your top 3 flavors of ice cream?
Oh, well, I really like vanilla because when you put a warm brownie under it and hot fudge on top of it, it's really, really good. But if you don't have the warm brownie and the hot fudge, then I like chocolate peanut butter. And there's this ice cream shop that I go to when I visit my mom in Western New York, and they have a flavor called Bittersweet Symphony, like S-I-N, Symphony, because it's so sinfully delicious. So,
okay, so give that place a little shout out.
Bears.
Okay.
Bears, B-E-H-R-S, Bears Ice Cream Shop, only open in the summer in Olcott, New York, on the shore of Lake Ontario.
See that? They'll love the press.
Well,
I know exactly. 2 people will probably show up there.
it's possible. So, Teri, you're going to give away a copy of the book on your blog.
I am. You know what? I am.
Awesome.
So when we do the giveaways on the website, we actually ask our people who are responding. We ask them an unusual question. So, Deborah, what do you want to know about our readers?
I want to know, how about the best movie they've seen recently?
Perfect. That's the question that we'll ask them on the blog.
Okay.
Perfect. And then we'll just, on like a particular date, we'll just draw a name and
perfect.
And for it.
Yeah, and you'll also include on your blog the list of all the other bloggers who are included in the blog hop for Art Quilt Collage. Yeah. So thank you so much, Teri. It's been super. You had great questions. I love chatting with you.
Oh, I love chatting with you too. We should totally do this again.
Right, for sure. Thanks again. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.